Hello, everybody. This is Tyler Preston 20. I'm here with an ex-Muslim by the name of Serena. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Great. How long have you been an ex-Muslim?
I think I've been ex-Muslim for about 7 months.
Wow, 7 months. Like, what convinced you to become an ex-Muslim?
I think it was examining my faith under the realization that it wasn't perfect. I think the more I examined, the more I found that certain things were just not acceptable. I just felt like I couldn't follow a religion that said these things.
How long have you been a Muslim?
I was a Muslim for about a year, I think. Um, I'm mixed race, so half of my family is Christian and half my family is Muslim. I was raised Christian. Um, and my father got back in contact. I converted to Islam. I thought it was perfect, as we all do. And yeah,
Were you forced to wear that headscarf right there?
yes, I was. It was like I don't want to do it, but every other girl wore it, so they kind of singled me out for not wearing it and kind of say like cover up, you like boys will like harass you, cover up.
But what convinced you to stop partaking in Islam?
Um, I I don't know. It's just the fact that I think it's just hard to come to terms with the fact that you just lost this whole identity of yourself when you're Muslim. It's like it's everything like who you are. Without it, you feel quite lost. You feel like you have no like place in life. You feel like you have no goal, nothing to achieve. I think that when you step out of Islam, it's very. It feels like someone's died. That's how deep the grief is.
Like before you became a Muslim, did you read the Quran and the other Islamic texts before becoming one?
I didn't. I just thought that obviously I knew like I saw the women that covered up. I just thought it's just like any other religion. I didn't really study it, which in hindsight I really should have.
So you just came into the faith without reading the books, but then you still believed it anyway.
I think I came into the faith, but I read the good parts that I was told. So I
You
thought,
mean like there's no compulsion in religion, that kind of stuff?
yeah, it was like whoever's slain a life, it's like he has slain like all of mankind. They didn't show me like the bad parts.
It was like later on when you started to study it, then you realized that there were a lot of bad parts within the text.
Yeah, I just I didn't accept the it's in context argument. Like I just thought that this is not acceptable. Like this does not match up to. It was like a struggle between what my religion said and what like my morals should be. I felt like it clashed a lot.
So when you saw like the text against women, when you saw the text against the non-believers, what were your reactions?
Um, I just obviously it's a lot of cognitive dissonance. I just tried to go with like the popular rhetorics that Islam honors women, it treats them like jewels. But I thought I'm a woman, like I am not being made to cover up. I am not worth half of a man. My husband does not have the right to demand sex, to beat me. I think what Mohammed did, I was always very disturbed at the fact he married a 6 year old. I just tried to ignore that. It was very, very sickening to think about a 51-year-old and a child. It was very disturbing.
Like when did you find about Muhammad and what he did to Aisha?
I never like knew about it at first, but I stumbled across reading it. I was sickened. I was literally disgusted. So I went to my family member. I said, "What is this? How? Why couldn't he have waited? Why was she 6? He could have gone for anyone." And she showed me an apologist website, which said that girls mature faster in hot climate. That it was what Allah wanted. It was she had her own choice. I just thought I don't know what to think. I just pushed it to the back of my mind, but it was probably the main reason why I left. I just could not accept that.
When you did you come out as an ex-Muslim to your family, and what do you think that they'll actually disown you?
Yeah, like they're quite strict. I knew that they would disown me if I came out. I mean, my dad used to tell all of his children, if you ever left Islam, would disown you. If you ever got like, with just threats of disownment, but like if you ever like think of leaving the religion, will disown you. If you get a like a girlfriend or boyfriend, will disown you. And he used to like, because I was the oldest, he used to threaten me like, get other family members to say we'll leave you alone. So I knew straight away. That's why I put off telling him I'd be disowned. So I was under like no illusions.
That's really sad. Like, I cannot imagine, family just kicking you out because of religious reason. Like, I have a similar story when I was a teenager. Like, what happened to me when I first came out as a non-Christian? Like, they accused me of being a demon worshiper, and they just threatened to kick me out. However, I managed to convince them to still have me in their house.
Yeah, my Christian family, obviously they were Christian, but they weren't that devout. I mean, they accepted me as a Muslim. They accepted me as an atheist now. I didn't really encounter that, but yeah, they definitely. I think my Muslim family told me that until I wanted to take off my scarf, that I was following the devil and that the devil had worked on me and it was the devil's fault, and that I was like a soldier of the devil, which I found laughable, really. It just sounds crazy.
I'm kind of curious, what led you to become an atheist?
I wasn't atheist when I left Islam. I was before. I just thought that if there is a God, which I did believe, I thought he must be kind. So I thought I'd just go and look in the Bible. I'll go and look for like a good role model, a good God that I can follow. I think I started reading at the same time the God Delusion and the Old Testament. I just read the Old Testament and I saw how human-like and barbaric. I just thought there is no way. I just realized in that moment that religion is man-made. If religion is man-made, then so is the construct of God. I just let all of it go, and I think atheism is probably a very liberating thing for me to realize.
I think it's probably the most liberating thing for most people who turn atheists. Like, I guess for people who always been atheists, it's not that liberating, but I guess for those who, deconvert from religion, it's kind of liberating.
It is. I think a lot of it is you're scared of God, you're scared of sinning, you're scared of hellfire. It's just you live in constant fear. You can't live your life properly. So when you realize that there is no sin, there is no God, it's like you don't have to live a life based on religious terms. You can live however you want. You don't
Yeah,
need
like it seems as though when you have that kind of mindset, you tend to have a lot more fear about death and dying and all these other things. But once you let go of all of that, it doesn't seem like it's that way anymore.
Yeah, I think a good thing is that I think religious people have this hope that there's always something better, which I think that was quite hard for me to realize that death is it. There is no paradise. I think, but it just gave me like before I would do good things just to get a ticket into heaven. I don't do that anymore. I just do good things because I want to. So I
Yeah,
think
it's kind of interesting that people say that they do good things to go to heaven. Well, if you were not, believing in heaven, will you still do good things? It does not make any sense to just do good things just because you want to go to heaven.
religion encourages that though. I mean, in Islam, there's a lot of stuff that if you do this, you'll go to heaven. If you do this, you go to hell. It's very controlled. I mean, your whole life is meaningless. It does not matter. What matters is pleasing Allah and going to heaven. It's like your worldly responses does not matter at all.
Right. It's like especially kind of really concerning when it comes down to Islam. Like I guess if you were to, leave all that stuff behind in Christianity, like it's not really a big deal. But when you come out as ex-Muslim, it's a big deal. Like when you came out as an ex-Muslim, like did you receive any kind of death stress or any kind of stress at all?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I feared for my safety quite often, even though I live in the UK, which is I live in like a town where it's very like a high population of Muslims, and they are quite. My family were quite extreme, so I had to walk out of the house fully covered from head to toe. I would have to. I went and stayed at like other people's houses because we were scared that someone would come and kill me. We even like I think we contacted the police, and I've had threats, I've had people shouting names at me, I've had people telling me that I'm gonna go to hell, that they wish I was dead, that I left Islam to be a prostitute. Someone actually told me today that I left Islam because I'm a prostitute and I want to
What?
pray.
I remember you mentioned that you never dated before.
Yeah, it's just they just want to admit that you just were left to sin rather than you found like fault. It's just ridiculous.
If a person if a person left Islam to become a prostitute, like what does that make the women that hang out with Muhammad then?
Oh my, yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's just honestly,
Like how big is the Muslim population where you live?
it is quite big. I mean, you see like mosques all the time. You see like veiled women all the time. Like we don't really see like it's more like we live in my it's like a Muslim country to me. We don't really like that's how big it is.
Like, would you say like if you were to live in a place where it's less Muslims, like it feels different in terms of attitude compared to an environment with more Muslims?
I think yeah, of course it does. I mean, it's like I can't explain it properly, but where we live, there's kind of stuff that you shouldn't really do around Muslims that is offensive. So I think like eating bacon is a lot of them. Playing music, they'll get offended. It's stuff like that. But when like I travel and I go to like non-Muslim places, I feel like I can like be myself without like offending the culture, offending the religion. It's just
Is it
yeah,
true that some restaurants cater to some of those beliefs, like the bacon stuff, like the restaurant won't serve bacons or something?
yeah, that's true.
Wow, like what restaurants?
I don't know, but I've definitely heard that.
Is it like safe, not Safeway, but like a Subway?
Yeah, I think they do that as well. I think some I don't think McDonald's do it. I think some KFCs do that as well. I think it's more in Muslim areas that they do it.
Yeah, I don't think McDonald's put bacons on their hamburgers like Wendy's probably do.
Mm.
But getting back to I guess the attitudes, like when you were a Muslim, how many Muslims were against gay marriages?
It every single one. I mean, if you were for gay marriage, you wouldn't be called a Muslim. I think homophobia was a very common thing. I mean, in my house, we couldn't even mention the word gay because it apparently might influence my brother to act in such a way, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I think if some of us were like, it would be used as an insult. It'd be called gay, and everyone would just be like, "You know how disgusting that thing is. Like, don't talk to me like that." I think there was quite a lot of homophobia that everyone would tell me it was disgusting. They should die. It's a perversion. It's not natural. It's done by like infidels. It's disgusting. It was just very hard for me to just accept that gay people should die because I had like gay friends. I was
Well,
thinking,
that's crazy. And what did he think about like adultery?
wow, they thought they should be stoned, obviously. Um, I don't really know. We didn't really talk about adultery. It was more about fornication. But I definitely know they believed in the Sharia law of stoning for adultery.
Is it true that they actually have these marches in the UK where they have people wanting to have Sharia there?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Like how often is that?
I don't think it's happened recently, but we saw photos of like women in the carbs and they're holding up signs saying like Sharia law is God's law, it's better than human law. Sharia law is like the pure law. It's quite scary.
Wow. And wasn't one of those people that was like the most famous Muslim there arrested for something?
Yeah, he was. I think he was arrested for like praising ISIS and like doing actions to like inflame support for them.
Oh yeah, that I forgot the name of that guy though, but he was like that guy with that beard. But then again, most Muslims have the beard, but like that one guy with the beard though. who said all
Yeah,
these crazy stuff.
yeah. I think he got quite a bad sentence. I think it was quite lenient. It's quite disgusting.
Wow. And what did he think about I guess the non-Muslims? Like what were their attitudes towards non-Muslims?
I think I think it just promotes hatred for like it's more of a mindset of like us versus them. I don't think that Muslims like him think they're superior to everyone else because we are immoral. To them, we're like the worst of creatures. So it's more like an extreme segregation. I think. I think they look down on us a lot.
Right. And would you say that it's impossible to reform Islam, or do you think it's a possibility?
See, everyone's asked me this, but I think the reformers have good intentions, but I wouldn't trust a reformer if they can't look at their own religion and actually say this is wrong. Like, what would you say to an Islamist if he points to a hadith or a Quran verse to say, look, I have justification? What is that reformer going to say then? I think if you have to reform Islam, you have to be honest with yourselves first. I think that's the first step they need to achieve.
What do you think about people like Majin Nawaz?
I think he's a good man. I think what he's doing is a good thing, but I think that he needs to acknowledge the fact that some things about Islam, what the media says, the bad things, they do have justification. Like it's not just culture, it has textual basis. When he called the hijab like a medieval, I think it was like a medieval instrument, he's not acknowledging the fact that Muhammad's own wives wore it, like it's in the hadith. He's just making it out to be a cultural thing imposed on Islam. It does have basis. I think he needs to be honest first, but I think he's a good man. I just think that he's going the wrong way about it.
Yeah, I cannot really understand how they could possibly reform it because it's like gutting out the entire thing. At least half
Yeah,
of what it is.
yeah, I've said that before. I don't think you can really reform the entire of Islam without changing like the whole religion. I think you
Well, you
just
have to
edit
make
it.
Muhammad into Jesus or something. Like turn him into a different person and just remove the bloody parts.
I think the problem is that Islam enforces the fact that it's God's word so much that any attempt to change it or like reinterpret it is considered blasphemy, and like we all know what that means. I think that's the why it's different.
Oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
speaking about
yeah.
blasphemy, when people mock Islam or draw cartoons of Muhammad, like what do they react to in your country?
Well, like I think the UK is quite PC, so I think they would just say that this is like really offensive. I remember recently, like a gymnast, he mocked Islam. He did a video of him and a friend drunk, and he was fake praying and saying Allahu Akbar and about the virgins, and he got suspended for 2 months. I think I think freedom of speech has just gone out the window, and people are so protective of Islam. It's ridiculous. We can't even make a comment without the media calling us Islamophobes, racists, anything. I think that Islam has some special infringement that other religions don't. It's like you can't criticize us.
Yeah, that's the strange thing about it. It's like when you criticize Christianity or these other religion, you're not called racist, Islamophobic, and nothing like that. But when you criticize Islam, they tend to do that kind of angle, which does not make any sense because Islam is not a race, it's like a ideology.
Exactly. People don't realize that you can't be racist. Like you don't. Rational criticism does not need to have a racist agenda behind it. Islam is not a race; it is a religion, and it is perfectly entitled to be criticized.
Right, like the only kind of real racism is like if people just hate Arabs for being Arabs, but that's different than like criticizing Islam itself.
Yeah, I was called racist to Arabs because I don't like Islam, despite the fact that I think the majority of Muslims are not Arabs at all. I think it's ridiculous and I think it's quite pathetic to use the race card.
Yeah, it's almost like kind of like how the radical feminists try to use the sexist card whenever something's
Oh
not
my god.
going on their way.
I hate third wave feminism. I think that people just they can't accept rational criticism, so they have to smear you with whatever labels they have. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's almost like a horseshoe there. Like with the Muslims, they say racist, Islamophobe, and then with the feminists, it's like you're a racist, sexist, Islamophobe. Like it's like the same insults, but in reverse. So.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I
It's
honestly
kind of funny.
feel
Like I
yeah.
saw you posting against feminism. Like, what was your first exposure to the feminists?
Feminism. Um, I always consider myself a feminist because I just thought it meant equality. I think after seeing like people like Lena Dunham, who I absolutely hate, I thought I just examined how modern feminism was. I found it was quite supremacist, quite commercialized, quite toxic. I just did not really like it at all. So I quit being a feminist. I became a humanist.
Yeah, it's like it's just so sad how feminism changed from, something that was actually, a good movement to something that's
Yeah,
actually crazy now.
yeah, like I really love first wave feminism. I think that was great. But I just feel like really sad how people are basically just hating men. I feel like that's the way it is now. I think it's advocating more supremacy of women rather than equality.
If feminism were to spread to the Middle East, like I would not want to
Yeah,
have like this third wave feminism there.
no, you need something like the first or second wave.
Yeah, like that's my biggest concern because I think like it could still have some good potential to, have, human rights in the Middle East, but still I don't think going into this third way kind of way to advocate for things is the good way to go.
I don't think so either. I think the third is just I think what they need first is to abolish the male guardianship. I think that then, if they do that, they need to build towards any semblance of equality that could be achieved. I am like a passionate supporter of stop enslaving Saudi women,
Oh
and
yeah, like can you tell
yeah,
me about that hashtag?
yeah, I think a lot of people don't know about it. So when I saw it, I was like, wow, this actually exists in this day. It's ridiculous. So every Saudi woman, she has a male guardian since she was born, since the day she will die. It's a close male relative, and she has to get his permission, informed consent to do even basic things, go to school, study, work, marry, even leave the house, which I find is quite degrading. You by giving women a guardian, you're basically saying they're subhuman, they're inferior, they can't make decisions about their own lives. I think that more people should be aware of it. More people should be trained to say that this is not right. This is old fashioned. This is sexist. It's degrading on every level. I think people need to be more aware of this. Like these women are suffering. It's terrible. It's horrible. Every day that goes past, they are suffering. They are suffocated in that environment, and I feel like they really need to be heard in any way.
Yeah, like the fact that they actually need male guardianship is just insane. Like it's just basically telling women that they cannot do things without a guy, which is complete nonsense.
It really is. I mean, I feel like the most horrendous fact is the thing that if the male guardian is abusive, he has every right within the law to make sure they never leave the house. I feel like how we like in the West we go out, we take that as a basic freedom. Every time I go out the house, I think, what if some Saudi woman? What if I need like a male's permission? I would feel like an object. I would feel like nothing more than his possession. I think that quite stuns me that they can't even take a step out the house without his permission. Sticking
Yeah,
to
not
it.
only that, but they cannot allow the woman to drive a car without, no, not drive the car, but ride a car without a man's permission.
Yeah, I think women can't even drive in Saudi. I think some activists tried to do that. They got arrested. It's ridiculous.
Right, like, and I believe the last election in Saudi Arabia, like, women voted for the first time, I heard.
Yeah, I think New Zealand gave women the first right to vote like 200 years back. This is how this the, this is how old-fashioned Saudi is. They've only just gave women the right to vote, and they consider that progress. No, there's so much more that needs to be done.
Oh yeah, much, much more, like,
Yeah,
making it into a democracy or something.
I I think the king said that democracy doesn't go with Islam. I think the Sharia law takes the first place. Democracy is like I don't think they have a proper political system because of how much they focus on religion. Religion is like their state, I guess.
Yeah, it's like for Islam, it's Islam first, everything else second.
Yeah, I don't even think they'll entertain any idea that's not even relatively Islamic. It's not just Saudi, it's like Iran, Pakistan, it's ridiculous.
Thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.